Chapter 1. A Voyage into Darkness. The sea was calm, yet uneasy. A blanket of cloud smothered the moon, leaving the deck of the Crimson Widow bathed in near total darkness. The only light came from the faint glow of lanterns swaying with the ship's rhythm, and the scattered stars that pierced through the veil of mist. Captain Elroy stood at the bow, his coat flapping like a banner in the salt-heavy wind. His crew watched him in silence. They all knew the journey they had begun was unlike any other, because they were chasing a place that most sailors swore never existed. The Whispering Isle. "Mark my words," the captain growled, his voice low and gravelly. "What we seek lies beyond the fog, and if we do not falter, by dawn we will see it." The men shifted uneasily. Every sailor had heard the rumors of ships that never returned. That voices rose from the trees to lure men into madness, and that beneath its soil was buried the greatest treasure the seas had ever known. One man, young Thomas, whispered to his bunkmate, "If the voices are true, what will they say to us?" His friend, a scarred gunner named Briggs, spat onto the deck. "They'll say what voices always say, boy. Lies. But lies can kill just the same." The ship pressed forward into the fog. The ocean itself seemed to hush, as though holding its breath. Even the gulls that had followed them for days were gone. Hours passed. The men lit no fires, sang no shanties. Their eyes darted to the shifting mist, searching for shapes that weren't there. The silence was broken only by the groan of the hull and the slap of water against its sides. Then, just as the first fingers of dawn brushed the horizon, they saw it. A jagged outline rising from the mist, black against the pale sky. Tall trees hunched along its ridges like crooked sentinels. And at its heart, a mountain split by a narrow ravine, glowing faintly as though the island itself was breathing light from within. "The Whispering Isle," Captain Elroy muttered. His lips curled into a grin, though his eyes betrayed something else. Something like fear. The crew gathered at the rail, staring. None spoke, but each felt the same chill crawl across their skin. The island was real, and it was waiting. The Crimson Widow dropped anchor just off its rocky shore. The captain turned to his men. "Get your rest while you can," he ordered. "At first light, we make land." The men obeyed, but sleep did not come easily. As they lay in their hammocks, listening to the creaks of the ship and the restless tide, a new sound drifted across. Faint, lingering, almost like voices. Some said it was the wind. Others swore they heard words, half whispered, half soon. Words promising gold, promising glory, promising secrets no man should know. And as dawn approached, every man aboard knew this. Once they set foot on that island, none of them would leave unchanged. Chapter 2. The Crew's Fears. The dawn was gray and heavy. Mist clung to the ship's rails as though it refused to let the men see clearly. One by one, the crew stirred from their uneasy rest, faces pale, eyes bloodshot. None had truly slept. The voices had been there all night. Thomas climbed onto the deck, shivering. "Captain," he whispered, "did you hear them too?" Elroy's face was stone. "Voices are for fools, boy. The wind groans, wood creaks. That's all." But his eyes betrayed him. He had heard them too. The men gathered by the mast, murmuring in fear. Briggs barked. "Quiet. You sound like hens in a storm." Mist and fog got you shaking like children. Yet even Briggs looked toward the island uneasily. To steady them, Elroy shouted, "That isle may look cursed, but it's just rock and trees. We land, take what we came for, and leave before nightfall." But Thomas asked softly, "And if the stories are true?" Silence fell. No one liked to speak the tales aloud. Finally, old Marlowe rasped, "30 years ago, a ship tried. The Seraphine, strong men. None returned. Wreckage washed ashore weeks later. strange marks carved in the wood. Not letters, not any tongue. Some said the island spoke through the planks. Unease grew. Another sailor whispered the isle's other name, the mouth of the sea, because once it swallows you, you never come out. The younger men clutched charms, eyes wide. Even Briggs was silent. Elroy raised his voice. Enough. Ghost stories don't fill bellies or line pockets. There's treasure, enough to make kings of us all. At first bell, you'll row ashore. Reluctantly they nodded, though fear clung like mist. Later, in his cabin, Elroy's eyes glimmered with obsession. Thomas leaned to Briggs. Do you believe him? About the treasure? Briggs spat. I believe in steel, lad. And in whispers. That night, as men sharpened blades and checked pistols, the voices returned. Louder now, clearer, like a chorus rising from the water. Some voices promised wealth. Others whispered names the sailors had never shared. Faces grew pale. When dawn broke, they lowered the longboats, hearts pounding, rowing toward the black shore of the Whispering Isle. The cliffs loomed like jagged teeth. The trees swayed, though no wind touched them. Each man felt it. The isle had already claimed them. Chapter 3 Whispers in the Jungle. The longboats scraped against black stone as the crew leapt ashore. The sand was darker than any they had seen, coarse like ground ash. The jungle loomed ahead, its canopy dense, shutting out the light. Captain Elroy stood tall, cutlass at his hip, pistol primed. Stay sharp, he ordered. Keep your lines tight. We move together. The men obeyed, but unease hung heavy. No birds called. No insects buzzed. The jungle was silent save for boots on damp earth. Young Thomas lingered near the rear, eyes darting to every shadow. He swore he saw shapes moving between the trees, too quick to be caught, too silent to be real. Briggs walked beside him, muttering, Forest feels wrong. It's watching us. Deeper they went, vines thick as rope dangled, curling like claws. Moss clung to every trunk. A sweet, metallic scent tainted the air like rust or blood. Then the whispers began, soft at first, brushing their ears like the hiss of leaves. The men froze, heads snapping toward the sound, but no one spoke. The voices rose, clearer now. One sailor, Jenkins, dropped to his knees, gasping. It's my mother's voice, he whispered. She's calling for me. He clawed toward the trees, eyes glazed with longing. It took 3 men to hold him back. Captain Elroy barked. Ignore it. The Isle wants you to listen. Don't. But even he clenched his fists, jaw tight. His eyes flicked to the shadows as though he too heard something irresistible. Hours passed, the jungle twisting into endless paths. The whispers never stopped. Sometimes they laughed, sometimes they wept. Sometimes they spoke the sailors' names, drawing them toward the thickets. By midday, the crew stumbled into a clearing. At its center stood a stone altar, cracked and overgrown with moss. Strange markings covered its spirals, eyes, jagged symbols, pulsing faintly with light. Marlowe wheezed. That's the same as the marks on the wreck, the ones I told you about. Silence fell. Then, from the trees beyond, came a sound none of them would ever forget. Not a whisper, not a human voice, but a chorus, hundreds of voices, layered and echoing. They spoke no tongue the men knew, yet each sailor understood in his bones, turn back or be devoured. The crew staggered, clutching their ears. Some fell in terror. The clearing trembled, the ground alive. But Elroy did not falter. He drew his cutlass, raised it high, and shouted, Forward, the treasure lies ahead. And with that, he led them deeper into the jungle, toward the heart of the Whispering Isle, where the voices would grow stronger, and the price of greed would soon be paid. Chapter 4 The Curse of the Vault. The jungle tightened around them, the trees closing like prison bars. The whispers never ceased. They grew louder, crueler, twisting into the sailors' memories. Some voices begged, some cursed, some promised. By dusk, they reached a gorge, splitting the island in two. At its base yawned a cavern, its entrance shaped like a gaping mouth. From within came a dim, pulsing glow. Captain Elroy raised his lantern, his face half-lit, half-shadow. The vault, he breathed. The men stared into the abyss. The air that poured from the cavern was icy, reeking of brine and rot. Yet beneath it all was the faint metallic tang of gold. Greed battled fear in every heart. They descended, lanterns swaying, the cavern swallowing them whole. The walls glistened as if slick with water, though no moisture dripped. Strange carvings lined the rock spirals, eyes and claw-like marks etched deep as wounds. At the cavern's end stood a vast chamber. Its ceiling soared high, lost in shadows. In its center rose a pile of treasure, coins, goblets, jewels, crowns, and relics from ships lost for centuries. Gold shimmered in the lantern light, dazzling, intoxicating. The men gasped. For a heartbeat, all fear vanished. But then the voices surged. They poured from the walls, the floor, the very air, deafening now, screaming and whispering all at once. Each sailor heard something different: loved ones, enemies, lost captains, forgotten prayers. Jenkins dropped his lantern and sprinted toward the treasure, crying out, "It's mine! She promised it to me." Before anyone could stop him, his body convulsed. Black veins spread across his skin. His eyes turned glassy, his mouth open in a silent scream. He collapsed, still reaching for the gold. Marlowe spat. "The gold's cursed. It ain't treasure, it's bait." But Elroy's eyes burned with obsession. "No, this is what we came for. The voices lie. The gold is real." He strode forward, ignoring cries of his men. His boots crunched over bones scattered among the treasure skulls cracked. Ribs splintered, the remnants of those who had come before. Briggs grabbed his arm. "Captain, listen. This ain't no vault, it's a tomb." Elroy wrenched free, madness in his gaze. "Then let it bury me rich." As he reached for a crown, the chamber shook. The pile of gold shifted, coins spilling like sand. Beneath it, something stirred. The voices merged into a single thunderous roar. The treasure mound collapsed, revealing not just relics, but a massive, skeletal figure half buried, its ribs like jagged arches, its skull twisted with carvings that glowed faintly. A beast long dead, or perhaps not dead at all. Its hollow eye sockets flared with sickly light. The whispering isle had shown its heart. And it was not gold. Chapter 5. The Final Treasure. The chamber shook as though the island itself was alive. Dust rained from the ceiling, coins tumbled down the treasure mound, and the colossal skeleton's ribs groaned as if something inside them still breathed. The men staggered back in terror. Some dropped their weapons. Others clutched crucifixes or muttered broken prayers. But Captain Elroy did not retreat. His eyes blazed, his face twisted in a fevered grin. "This is it," he roared. "The prize. The sea herself has guarded it for centuries, and now it's mine." He leapt onto the mound, scrambling up coins that slid beneath his boots like shifting sand. The voices surged again, screaming warnings, promises, curses. "Captain, stop," Briggs bellowed. "You'll doom us all." But Elroy seized a jeweled crown, holding it aloft. The instant his hand closed on it, a shriek erupted not from him, but from the island. The cavern walls pulsed like flesh, veins of light crawling through the stone. The skeleton's jaws opened with a grinding crack. From its throat poured a tide of shadows, writhing and twisting into shapes half human, half nightmare. The whispers became screams, tearing at the sailors' minds. Men fled toward the cavern mouth, stumbling over bones and gold. Jenkins's body lay where it had fallen, black veins crawling still, as if reaching for them. Briggs, dragging young Thomas by the arm, shouted, "Move, lad! Move!" The crew scrambled through tunnels, shadows chasing them, voices clawing at their thoughts. Some men fell pulled into the dark, their cries cut short. Others fought, pistols and blades useless against the swarm. Behind them, Elroy stood atop the treasure, crown in hand, laughing madly as the darkness consumed him. His voice echoed through the chamber, twisted with rage and triumph. "It's mine. Do you hear me? Mine?" The survivors burst from the cavern into the night. The jungle was alive now, trees writhing, ground splitting. The island groaned like a wounded beast. Reaching the shore, they threw themselves into the longboats. Briggs rowed with furious strength, Thomas beside him, eyes wide with terror. Behind them, the cavern mouth glowed brighter until it exploded in a roar of light. The island shuddered. Trees fell. The mountain split. Flames and shadows erupted skyward, a pillar of doom. Slowly, the sea closed around it, swallowing the ruins whole. When dawn came, the whispering isle was gone. Only an endless horizon remained. The surviving sailors drifted in silence, the oars dipping weakly into the waves. No one spoke. Finally, Thomas whispered, "Was it real?" Briggs stared at the horizon, scarred face pale. "Real enough. And if the sea has sense, it'll never rise again." The longboats carried them into the endless ocean, broken men haunted by whispers they would never escape. The whispering isle had vanished, but in the dead of night, survivors swore they still heard it calling.